Have you had this image pop up on your dash before, or one like it? In this video, I'm going to share with you the experiences that I've had with this image and what I did to correct the problem. So hopefully this video will help with you as well. One day, I was driving along when all of a sudden this image popped up on my dash, went away, popped up, went away, and I was a little bit concerned because I hadn't seen it before. So I connected my OBD2 connector to see what it was, and I got the following fault pop up. I got the fault code P040D, EGR temperature sensor A circuit high. I did a bit of research and found out the chances are that my exhaust gas temperature sensor had failed. The only problem I had was I didn't know where it was on my engine or how to test it. I came across a video on YouTube that showed you where it was, how to test it, but the only problem wasn't in English. So while it showed the location, it didn't help with the testing. I ended up buying a new sensor from Ford and replaced it. It only cost me about $60. And I had no further issues. So I thought I'd make this video so that way you can show you how to test it and you can figure out whether yours is an issue for you or not. Now what I'm going to show you is where the actual EGR sensor is. So I'm on the left hand side of the motor, and if you look just down in here, you'll see under here is where the sensor lives. If you lift up your engine cover, if you have one, that's the connector for it there. Now, if you want to test it, you've got to do the following. Make sure your car's cold. And what you're going to do is you're going to disconnect the sensor. So you just pull it out a little bit and disconnect it, which will show you exposed pins. Then what you want to do is set your multimeter to resistance. You then put your prongs on the two pins and see what resistance you get. My engine's hot, so I'm getting 246 ohms. Now what you're going to want to do is run your car around, get it nice and hot, and test the resistance again. Once you test the resistance again, that value should go up because the resistance goes up, the hotter it gets. What you're about to see is me testing the sensor, my old sensor, and it's cold at the moment and it's starting off at 219 ohms. So what I'm about to do is pour boiling water over the sensor and you'll see the resistance rise. It levels out about 250, then goes up to 260. Then I stop pouring the boiling water on it and it drops back down to 219. This is just to show that why you need to have your car cold to test it first, and then have your car hot to get the final reading to check to see if the sensor is working correctly. Now I'm going to show you the two different ways that you can remove the sensor. For this, you need the engine to be hot, and you're going to want to wear gloves so that way you don't burn your hands. When I first did it, I tried with a regular spanner and all I did was round the nut. So what you're going to want to do is get yourself a 17mm flare nut spanner for the first method, and then you can get that in nicely. Put it on there because it will slip over the sensor and you should be able to crack it that way. Because I rounded mine, it didn't work for me, so I had to go with the second option. Because I knew I was changing my sensor, I got a deep socket and I ended up cutting the wires to the sensor. So what you have to do to remove the sensor if you're doing it that way is you have to take this plate off. Sorry. It's got one bolt here and one on the adjacent side. You remove this plate, you then cut the wires up. You then can slide the deep socket over the nut and you can crack it that way. To put the new sensor in, you just do the opposite of however you took it out. This is what the sensor looks like when it's fully removed. So you can see where I've cut the cables and where I slid the deep socket over the top. The other thing that this is missing is the nut that holds it in. But this is the sensor and the probe that goes into the exhaust manifold. Once you've replaced the sensor, turn your engine on and see if the fault comes back. If this was being your problem, this will be the fix. How did you remove your sensor? Did you use a flare nut spanner or did you use a deep socket? Did you have to use WD-40? Was there anything else you had to do that was different from the way that I did it? Make sure you leave a comment at the bottom so that way people can see how you did it. Make sure you keep watching for the next video.